The social injustices of climate change tend to be felt most in the developing world. What effect do you think the Australian government's environmental irresponsibility might have on our relationship in the region, particularly due to the possibility of mass displacements in South and Southeast Asia?
Emily, put like that, it is a human rights question.
Yeah, it very much is, and I think at the moment we do have a problem with Australia's position on climate change. When you look at the countries in our region that are going to be so horribly affected, and what we'd like to see, what I'd like to see, is Australia actually taking human rights into account in its climate policy. We know we're going to see sea levels rising. We know that there's going to be displacement, as you said, and we need to start factoring in the human cost of climate change.
Michael Fullilove, once again, it comes back to your argument that diplomacy begins at home. You make the same, or you bring climate change into that argument. Tell us why.
Well, we know what the impacts of global warming will be for Australia and for the world. We know that Australia is the highest per capita emitter of greenhouse gases in the developed world, and I think that gives us an interest and indeed an obligation in helping the world to try to avoid dangerous warming. This is the kind of issue that Australia has led on in the past. If you think of our work on the Chemical Weapons Convention or wrangling the various countries of Asia together, we have shown leadership on these sorts of questions. There's been a timely change at the top. We know Mr Turnbull is forward-leaning when it comes to climate. So I look to Mr Turnbull and the Turnbull government to show some leadership in the lead-up to Paris and beyond. And I can give him one piece of intel, and that is that the public would like it, because in the 2015 Lowy Institute poll, nearly 2/3 of Australians said they would support substantial greenhouse gas emissions commitments from Australia if that would encourage other countries to also cut their emissions. So
okay,
it would
you'd have heard in the past 24 hours the new Minister for Resources and Energy arguing that Australian coal exports actually save lives by helping to pull people out of poverty in developing countries. Now, there's a big discrepancy between what coal does and doesn't do in some people's minds. Does it save lives, and is this part of the equation?
Well, there's no question that climate is an incredibly complicated issue, and we have to think, I mean, development is also a right. And, I mean, I've been quite critical of China, for example, tonight, but we probably don't give China enough credibility, enough credit for lifting 700 million Chinese people out of poverty. So development is a right that has to be factored in. But the dangers that flow from climate change are so great that I think we all need to get together and to drive more ambitious agreements in Paris. And I think doing that would be not only the right thing for Mr Turnbull, but the popular thing.
Alison